and it's both publishing and developing games. Therefore, what old school developer slash publisher do you want to come back? Now, this is pie in the sky because not everyone might not be able to do it. What is the best handheld in your opinion and why? Who or what is the best non Nintendo mascot or franchise character? What game do you think could be good with a re release and a ton of polishing? And we'll close it out with the a hole of the week. Uh, so let's get it started. If YouTube would cooperate, we could go live. Or did I accidentally not put? I accidentally put it on Radeon streaming. Let me let me change this real quick. Tomorrow, my flight is like at 4 in the morning, so I'm basically probably not gonna get any sleep. I'm probably just gonna like
Oh, business or pleasure?
it's a little bit of both.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm going on a conference for business, but it's in San Diego, so I will be doing a little bit of pleasure. San
Nice.
Diego, yeah. We're
Enjoyment.
we're live with another episode of BS Busters. I'm glad everyone can join us. We're joined by, well, the usual suspects plus one of our newer guests. I'll let the guests introduce themselves first. Go ahead. First, the newest guest, Louis. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey, everyone, name's Louie. Glad to be on.
All right. And of course, we're joined by Kenoshi. Kenoshi, introduce yourself.
It's Kenoshi Abominita. Same here. Glad to be on.
All right. Glad to have you. So we've got quite a few topics, five, but I think they're pretty good. So we'll be covering what is the best open world and open world game we've ever played. This doesn't necessarily mean the best open world game, but the best setting in an open world, the open world itself. Sunsoft is coming back to both making and publishing games. Therefore, what old school developer slash publisher do you want to come back to making games? What is the best handheld in your opinion and why? Who or what is the best non Nintendo mascot or franchise character? Because if we include Nintendo, it would just be overwhelmed with the Nintendo IPs. Um,
Mhm.
and I would also include Pokemon with that because I mean I'm fucking tired of Pikachu. um, so non Nintendo mascot or non Nintendo affiliated. What bad game do you think could be good with a re release and a ton of polishing? And we'll close it out with our asshole of the week. But before we go any further, let's get started with the first one. What is the best open world in an open world game you've ever played? The set. Who wants to go first?
Best open world and open world game I've ever played.
Yep.
Um. Oh man, I would say in concept, I'm not a huge fan of the gameplay, but I like what they were going for. I completely understood what they were going for, and that's The Witcher 3. It felt
Hmm.
felt very
They tried to.
subtle.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, they it, the world just feels alive,
Lived in.
especially when you go lived in. Like you go into the villages and people are doing stuff. They react to different times of the day. Um, it's a very well thought out open world.
Yeah,
Uh,
it feels alive.
yeah, yeah,
Well, oh, if you're done, I'll go ahead.
All
yeah.
right.
You can go ahead.
Myself, this one's kind of a deeper cut. Um, anyone here ever play Vampire Bloodlines Masquerade like way back then,
I
like in the two?
have. I replay that game about once every 18 months. I do another
So,
playthrough.
so myself back then, I played when it was just before all these fantastic mods when it came. Went ahead and fixed it up. The one I played was a bit rough. I'd like to replay it again though, because back then, the goth stuff that was the thing back then. Vampires, heavy metal. The dirty LA. I really loved that back then because that was probably my first immersive sim ever. Well, what would I call an immersive sim though? It's more of a tabletop though. Really, but I say back then I was more fascinated by setting because I guess the open world of it wasn't anything beyond what your typical rock star would offer.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, a contemporary vampire drama um, with a huge white zombie filter on top. I thought that was like the greatest thing for me back then. I'd say yeah, that's probably my answer then, because right now I don't really have a good relationship with the open world genre, so I can't really think of one I played recently that knocked that out of the park for me. Like even Xenoblade, well, I do like that game, and I think the open worlds are fantastic. I wouldn't say, I still wouldn't quite say, oh my goodness, this is the one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
that's it
can
for
see
me.
that. I can see that. Actually, you took one of mine. I have three. First, I am gonna say Vampire the Masquerade
Awesome.
because almost every single section of that game, it's not really open world. It's like more of a like a small sandbox, but like you go to Chinatown, it feels like Chinatown. You start in
Mm.
that area, it feels like a little stretch of the city where you're there doing stuff. Um,
Right.
and people, I mean, and there's not a lot of people, but people are doing things like, prostitutes walking down soliciting people. A poor homeless dude's like, yeah, can spare some change, buddy. Stuff like that.
And everyone always has something new to say. That's what I always loved about it.
Yeah, events that happen in the game influence what people say and do. And I know that's very like now, like people expect that to be the norm, but back then you didn't see that in games.
Oh
Like
yeah.
if you went back to like if you played a JRPG and you went back to a town where you had just taken on some major stuff, you might get one or two blurbs from some guards or higher level NPCs who would say something. But normal people,
Yeah.
hey, you want to stay at the end? Same thing over and over again.
Right.
My number two, I agree with you. Xenoblade Chronicles Worlds. Now, I have Xenoblade Chronicles 3. I have played about 30 minutes of it.
Ooh, I'm
Uh,
at 90 hours.
yeah, I've played about 30 minutes of it. But there is a Xenoblade Chronicles game that I thought the open world in the city was really well done.
hmm
X.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely.
X's city
Yeah.
felt like a city. It felt
Yeah.
like there were stores, there were malls, there were houses, people were doing stuff, there was a schedule. I was like, this feels like a city.
hmm
Like an interaction. I think Xenoblade Chronicles X still has the best interaction
Yeah.
with its how you interact with the world. But like Xenoblade Chronicles 3, at least to me, I haven't played a JRPG that has you know this much depth compared to its for the example it's side quests.
Yep.
Side quests actually have a meaning to them rather than just being a fetch
Well,
quest. It
I
actually
hate to break this
adds
to
to the
you.
story.
They stole that from X. Because the main story of X was very blase. It was very basic.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can confirm for 3 they went in a more dynamic storytelling approach.
yeah, in order to flesh out the story of X, you had to do the side quests. Because then you're like, oh, there's more shit going on here than what the main quest tells you. But you
Right.
had to have done those quests in order to figure out the other side stuff that's going on. And most people didn't want to do it. They just wanted to
Uh,
blaze through the main stuff and just call it a day. So, but I'm glad they refined their storytelling. But I mean, to be honest, they've been doing this for years. Because if you played Bait and Katos, the main story was fine. We got to save the world by fighting, preventing X, Y, or Z from happening. But if you really wanted to get in depth about what was going on in the world, you had to do the side quests. You had to find those other immersive tales that were being told, and it actually worked
yeah,
out really well.
I can tell they had a bunch of smaller scenario writers to write up a side quest. It was a very I hate to use it, it's the first one that comes to mind, a very Bethesda-ish thing where I can tell that while the objective and of the quest was probably something simple, they did their damnedest to at least put a little bit of a small story thread to it.
And like even mostly comparing it to the last game, Xenoblade Chronicles 2, like even the new game mechanics, how they introduce new game mechanics and new abilities in Xenoblade Chronicles 3 compared to 2 is so much more meaningful.
Yeah, like if you
Uh,
want those new classes, you've got to go ahead and do the quests, and those quests they pay off.
Oh yeah. I
yeah,
mean,
like,
if you wanna run faster, take less fall damage. It's like
Hmm.
you wanna be more effective in the game. You kind of do have to do the side quests. Um,
yeah.
you know, but you know,
But
some
yeah,
people, No, go
with
ahead.
Xenoblade, oh, I say yes. On Xenoblade, I always admire that the worlds definitely look beautiful. They're not just open. They go to some lengths to go ahead and make them a little bit more, not quite to a FromSoft level, where there's sometimes a little more elaborate. Something's tucked away over there. Sometimes there's an off the beaten path here. Um, but with X, the city it was definitely incredible because no city and yeah, not even in three. Well, actually, three comes close where they make a big metropolis. I was as impressive as that. Because right now their specialty was definitely natural vistas. Speaking of, wait, would you consider Dark Souls open world really, since it's just one big loading zone of several interconnected areas?
Depends
More
on
of a
which
it's more
Souls game you're talking about. If you're talking
The
about
first one.
Bloodborne, the one that recently came out, what was it? What was the one that recently came out? Everyone
Oh,
was
Elden
more
Ring.
Elden
defensive.
Ring. Elden Ring's definitely an open world game.
Yeah,
I was
that's
thinking,
open world.
okay, because the first Dark Souls, like a lot of the areas are connected with each other, but then,
Zone to zone to zone.
yeah. All right, just wondering your opinions, but yeah, no, Xenoblade is definitely a standout. Not my favorite, but definitely a standout.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And my last is open world game where I'm like, this feels like a living, breathing world. And even though it's kind of um, I know it's going to be kind of, I know people are going to get mad at me when they hear this because it's kind of old, it's kind of janky. Fallout New Vegas.
Okay,
Now, not New Vegas
Well,
itself, but the towns, like the areas around New Vegas, like all of those little settlements feel like they were made logically. There's
almost
bathrooms.
I'd almost expect the GTA 3, but no, that works too.
No. GTA 3 is like Rockstar's first attempt at like a 3D open. It's like them trying really hard to do a 3D open world sandbox. If I had to give it to a Grand Theft Auto game, I would say San Andreas, just because of the
probably.
sheer amount and the little AI. Because like even if you aren't there, because I've done the thing on San Andreas on PC where you can put in a code where you just fly around. You can do a code, fly around, like leave your character, fly the camera someplace else, and the little AI people are doing things. People are
Mm.
getting their cars stolen. Someone will pull out a gun and shoot somebody. The police will come and get their ass. It's like, wow, there's a lot of stuff going on here, and you're not even there to witness it, but it's a world. I like that.
No, that's right. Of course GTA came out like in 2001. It was really impressive for its, I guess, size is really what its scope was impressive at the time because whenever you do observe any behaviors, it's people walk around the corner and sometimes it'll just turn back to walk around again.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, GTA is a series of simplistic AI subroutines but put together in such a way that it feels like it fools you into thinking they're actually doing stuff.
Mm.
There's stuff going on, and here's the thing: the simplistic subroutines work so well that random stuff can happen and it won't happen twice. Like I said, someone will get their car stolen in a GTA San Andreas. The police will come and chase someone. Someone did a crime. The police will chase someone down and shoot their ass and kill them. And it's like I wasn't involved with that. I don't know what happened, but it happened. And I like that concept, but that's still it's not high enough to be because it is a simplistic AI subroutine, and nothing you do in GTA San Andreas really affects the world except for like scripted things like, hey, we
Right.
uh we crashed our car through the sprunk sign on one of the streets. So it looks like some lady has some stuff exploding in her mouth. It's like, that's kind of juvenile. But that's the only,
Oh
that doesn't
man.
really change the world. That's just a affectation. Whereas in New Vegas, events that you do change vast swaths of how that game works.
Mm.
and like you feel like you have agency, and that's where I kind of like, for me, I like open worlds that feel like you have agency. Like I like that in Xenoblade Chronicles X, like there's side quests where you can do that change how that city looks, what is built. Like it changes, like the world changes. Like, hey, if you help them build the water reclamation facility, it opens up a new side quest chain. But it also means the people in the city can shower. It's like, it's like little stuff like that. Like I like open worlds that have agency. Like I don't like open worlds where everything you do is just to preserve, like the game comes along and preserves the status quo. One of the reasons why I found Breath of the Wild's open world to be kind of underwhelming is because it's like, man, I cleared out this fortress full of monsters. Too bad they'll respawn in 3 days. It's like, wouldn't it have been cool if you could have cleared out this fortress full of monsters and then called for reinforcements from the local town to send soldiers to that fortress and they take it over, which in turn makes that area safer? But, they were busy getting that physics engine to work and porting it over to the Switch. They didn't have time to do that extra programming to actually make the world dynamic. Anyway, anyone have any other open world games where they're like, yeah, this is amazing, I love it, it's the shit? Okay.
Not at the moment, no.
Okay, all right. So next topic, Sunsoft. Now, for those of you who don't know, Sunsoft legendarily made some of the best NES games ever, like Blaster Master and the Batman game that people love on the NES, like one of the few good licensed games that came out in that era. They also made Batman 2, Revenge of the Joker, but that first one is just... that game is still really playable today. It's difficult enough that you feel accomplishment when you beat it, but it's not so hard that it feels unfair. Like you die in that Sunsoft Batman game, it's because you weren't skilled enough. It's not because the game was cheap. They also made some shit apparently, but I remember Sunsoft as making good games.
I remember a huge run of Looney Tune games they made.
That was Konami.
Okay, never mind. Because I remember some of these. I'm looking at their works right now. But go on.
Yeah, that was Konami. But Sunsoft did make a lot of good stuff, and a lot of their games were always very ambitious. They're always very ambitious. But we're not talking about Sunsoft. That was just a segue. We're talking about other old school developer publishers that you want to see come back. Now, this is a pie in the sky. They could be defunct. They could be closed. But if you could see them come back with their former glory, what would you be accepting of that, and what would you like to see them make? Who wants to go first, Kenoshi or Louis?
I'll let you go first. This is the thinker.
All right.
Yeah. An old studio to come back.
Mm-hmm.
I'll let you go. I don't have a... Yeah, I don't have an answer off the top of my head. I'll let you go, Mr. Red Fox.
All right, Rare. Now, I know people are going to say, oh my god, Rare, Microsoft owns Rare. No, that shit that Microsoft has is not Rare. Okay? That's just a shell. That's someone gutted Rare, pulled all the organs out, and then some other motherfuckers pulled the husk over their body. That is not Rare. That is a fraud, a fake, a facsimile, a facade. Okay. I would like to see the original Rare come back, like Pipe Dream, Pie in the Sky. I would love to see the original Rare come back. I would like to see the original Rare come back. I would like to see them finally do a Conker's Bad Fur Day sequel. I would love to have a Conker's Bad Fur Day sequel. I'd like to see a sequel to Jet Force Gemini.
Oh yeah,
that game had some really good ideas. It just wasn't like the button layout for that game was trash, but it had some good ideas in it. I would like to see a real Perfect Dark 2. Because Rare, like I said, Rare had some really good games, and I'd like to see a Battletoads, another Battletoads, and not that shit we got from whoever the fuck that was who made that other one. Like a real Battletoads, a real proper Battletoads with enough difficulty that you feel like, yeah, this is Battletoads, but not so hard that it's like, this is unfair. It feels like someone kicked me in the crotch while wearing steel-toed boots. Yeah, I would like to see them come back. As far as developer, as a publisher, I would like to see Midway come back.
Interesting.
Midway was the king. Were the king, like they were always like one flop away from bankruptcy, but they made some really good games. They released some good stuff back in the day. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I know Midway made some really released some really good games back in the day. They went bankrupt, but let's see, what did they make? Okay, pinball. I'm not even looking at their pinball games. I'm just gonna look at the stuff they released on home consoles. Not even their arcade games. Okay, Mortal Kombat. Okay, NBA Jam, Mortal Kombat 2, Revolution X. They were actually the ones who released Killer Instinct for arcades. Cruis'n USA, WWF WrestleMania, the arcade game, Mortal Kombat 3, NBA Hang Time, Killer Instinct 2. They did the arcade version. Cruis'n World, Doom 64. They published that. Top Gear Rally. Oh, I had that game on the N64. It was great. San Francisco Rush. NFL Blitz. I just want them to come back.
I think I have one, but the thing, I'm not entirely sure if they were just a publisher or developer, but Acclaim.
Yeah, Acclaim would be good too. I would love to see
Yeah,
Acclaim brought back.
a couple of their Turok games, and they had this one game called Our Marines, which I was pretty fond of on the Nintendo 64 back then. What else do they have? They're publishing a lot of games based off this comic book company that name's Valiant. Yeah, they're publishing a lot of games based around Valiant coms like Shadow Man and stuff.
And Turok.
Yep, Turok and Man of War, something like that.
Yeah, Man of War versus Iron Man, which is a crossover that no one wanted. No one was asking for that. You know why they did that? Because I think Marvel bought the rights to that character and they just did a crossover comic. It's like, why? No one was asking for this. Like, I don't even know who the hell Man of War is.
And they also made one or two South Park games. I had never played any South Park game though. But yeah, no, just that's the first one I come up with because there's just some obvious ones. Like I didn't want to say Squaresoft, that was just way too easy.
And a low
yeah.
blow that hurts my heart when someone says Squaresoft.
You know what developer needs to come back? Old Naughty Dog, because the Naughty Dog that's around is an old. It's a zombified version.
It's a fraud. It's a
fraud.
fake.
It's not real.
It's perpetrating a fraud.
The reason Naughty Dog went downhill is because the original creator, the original people who built Naughty Dog, they left for whatever reason. So
yeah, I think they all moved on after the first or second Uncharted, just about. I want to say.
Yeah. It's just like.
And on top of that, I don't know Naughty.
Oh, sorry.
Oh no, go ahead. You can go ahead.
I was gonna say that I should have seen the writing on the wall after Uncharted 3. There should have been like a sign. It's like, yeah, it's time to get out.
Yeah, it's time to look. Wrap your shit up and jump out the plane.
I know Naughty Dog is they're about the same age, but really the era of Rockstar I liked was when they moved on to the 5th or 6th generation. I forget what it is, because when they finally just ended up moving past their PS2 era greatness was around the time Max Payne 3 came out. Just about that
That
time.
game was really good though.
Max Payne 3? I had never
No,
played that one. I
Max
played the.
Payne. All the Max Payne games are good. One,
Okay.
2, and 3. They're all really good. Like there was a time where Rockstar, like you know how now Rockstar maybe comes out with one game every 6, 7 years, and half the
Yeah.
time it's a remaster or some shit. There was a time during the 6th gen where Rockstar, you would get a Rockstar game you would get 1 or 2 Rockstar games every 2 years.
Oh yeah. Manhunt, The Warriors, Max Payne, Red Dead Revolver,
Well,
Bully.
Red Dead Revolver is not their game.
Well, it was published by them, wasn't it?
Nope. Red Dead
Oh.
Revolver. Red Dead Revolver was a Capcom game. Rockstar bought the IP from
Hmm.
Capcom because it didn't do that well, and then they did Red Dead Redemption
Ooh.
for the PS during the 7th gen. It's. I mean, kind of like how Square Enix bought True Crime, the IP from
Oh yeah. I
Activision,
mean,
and turned it into Sleeping Dogs.
which I think is a strong game, but it just wasn't going to compete in the era of where everyone was trying to get a piece of the open world crime pie.
I think it could have done well if they had done one simple thing. If
What's that?
only they hadn't compared it. This is going to be the GTA killer. Stop calling some shit the GTA killer, or like anytime you compare your game to being the killer of something that's huge, like when Sony called their PlayStation Move their the Wii killer, or when Sony called Dark Cloud the Legend of Zelda killer. I'm like, no, or Killzone, it's the Halo killer. For real, bro.
Oh, that's embarrassing.
You're gonna you're like some dude showing up to the you're like some dude showing up to a motorcycle rally with a moped.
Mm.
Okay, you just because you have something with an engine that drives on 2 wheels, don't make it a motorcycle. Okay.
Oh, I know you said retro games because the thing is, I'm only in my 20s, so retro to me is sixth generation. But did you guys ever play Monolith production games like stuff like Fear, Contract Jack, crap, Condemned?
I've heard of Condemned.
Uh,
I've heard of
I
Condemned.
play I play a little bit of Fear. Played a little bit of Condemned. I haven't really played enough to actually have a
They,
full
they,
opinion on the games.
oh,
But
they
I
were
heard they're
pretty
decent.
they're pretty well known for sort of aesthetically and creative first person action games. Like they had one game called No One Lives Forever, which is a really good 1960s spy first
Spy
person shooter
parody
type
game.
game.
Yeah.
Yep. And the thing was, after Fear, they just sort of ended up getting contracted for. I hate to put it like this, but just generic blockbuster sludge because they ended up making stuff like the Shadows of Mordor, Shadows of War game, that Gotham City Imposters game, which I can't speak on.
But that game made a lot of money though. Those Shadows of
Oh,
War game
really?
made a lot of money. Yeah. I mean the only thing that made that game bad was that Warner Brothers was like, we need to monetize it, and they basically were forced to put in that monetization pack that essentially was named after a guy who died. Like it was really exploitative. I'm like,
I see.
y'all don't seem to know how to read a room.
It
Uh,
also came out during a time where I was just sort of fed up with seeing a lot of these Ubisoft looking games, and I'm sure Shadows of Mordor had a lot to set it apart.
oh yeah, but
But
it did look like some Ubisoft shit. I'm not gonna
yeah,
lie.
Yeah, it came out at the perfect time because, you know, and if it would have come out at any other time, it wouldn't have gotten the attention that it did, because there was nothing to play that year the game came out, so it was kind of like, especially with its nemesis
Nemesis.
Nemesis
system,
system. Yeah.
Yeah.
which is interesting, and the one of the biggest problems with that system is that it's copyright. So if you're not gonna see anybody build upon it because you know it's a copywritten system. So
Yeah.
No, what exactly is it? If anyone could break it down for me, because
Oh,
I remember hearing a lot of talk about it, but I could
Basically,
never get around.
it's coding that makes it so that like if an enemy kills you, uh, kills your character, because the conceit of the character is that you're this guy who essentially is like something horrific happened and you survived somehow, and you were offered the chance of vengeance by this other being. So when you're struck down, you don't die, you come back. But who struck you down becomes a nemesis, and it's there's a coding and it randomizes like if you're struck down, even if it's under the same circumstances but not by the same character, that character will randomly become like they'll have different traits depending on now that they're your nemesis. Like they might say Olgar One Eye killed you, and his traits are he's impatient and he's greedy or something like that. But then you might get killed by another orc, and he'll say his name's Bolgan, and he is cautious and he likes traps, like stuff like that. And so it's copywritten. So like unless you're Warner Brothers Media, you can't it can never be upgraded or expanded because it's copywritten.
Yeah.
I
So
see.
the next game that's going to use it is that new Wonder Woman game, which we have not seen hide or hair of since they showed
Nope.
it like a year or two ago. So
My question is, does anyone want to play a Wonder Woman game?
who was asking? Who was asking for a Wonder Woman game? Anyway?
Not that I have anything. I don't have anything against Wonder Woman. It's just typically speaking, when you think of Wonder Woman, you think it's her in concert with other characters. Like if they had a Justice League game and you could play as Wonder Woman, that would make sense. But a game where Wonder Woman is the central character, I'm like, does anyone really want to play that?
In addition, a lot of what she offers is offered by, not her character, because I think her character is fantastic. You know, sword and shield wielding, badass lady. That's great. But a lot of her mythos revolves around a sort of dynamic Roman and Greek mishmash mythology.
Yeah.
But the thing is, there's already a leading title that's sort of providing that to a lot of people. So it'd be tough for this one to stand out for me in that regard.
What is it? Red
Oh,
Sonja?
oh no, no,
Red
no, I
Sonja.
was gonna say God of War, even though it's using Norse mythology at the time.
Eh,
It's just
yeah, you're right.
yeah, like I'm not saying I'd find God of War a better game, but you know it's
That niche, and plus God of War is established as a video game IP, whereas the last time Wonder Woman was in a game by herself was never. She was never been in a
said it
game by
better than I
herself.
could.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of those things where I'm like, okay, you guys want to do this, and I'm like, I don't see this being like the movie. I mean, not the movie. The game could come out and it could be amazing.
Yeah.
I just don't have. I don't have. I'm not seeing where the audience is for this. Let me put it that way. Now here's the thing: if the game comes out and the combat is amazing, and they have like it's some of the best feeling combat ever, it might be able to pull it off. But I strongly doubt it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I definitely agree with you on Wonder Woman. How she's sort of, I know her pretty much as part of the Justice League. Like I didn't collect comic books growing up, so or anything like that. So my information on Wonder Woman is like, but she's one of the characters that's part of the Justice League. So
Yeah,
that's
she's one of the founding members of the Justice League. Like,
yeah,
you'd have to be a huge comic book fan in order to know the deeper history behind Wonder Woman. Like, she was created by a guy who was really heavily into S&M, which is why her weakness, canonically in the books, is if you tie her up, she loses all power. But she's a feminist icon. Um, yeah, it's just one of those things where I'm like, who the fuck was asking for this? It's like if someone made a video game that starred, let's see, who's a female character? Okay, they made a video. Well, actually, you could make a video game that starred Black Widow because then it would be like Perfect Dark.
yeah, pretty much.
But let's see, who's a character who's like, okay, if they made a video game starring Sif from the DC from Marvel Comics,
Right.
Sif, who's a side character in Thor. It's like,
Hmm.
why? Like, I don't.
Someone's a real big Sith fan.
Yeah, someone really likes Sif. And Wonder Woman has more cachet than Sif, but I'm just like, I don't.
Yeah.
I don't know. I could be wrong. Some people might say, "How dare you say that I like this character?" You know, you can like whoever you want. Like who you like. I'm just saying. I'm not seeing it.
What topic were we on?
We went on a
Retro
segue.
Studios.
We
Yeah.
were talking about Retro Studios, and then we hit a segue about Warner Brothers Nemesis system, because for Louis that is a retro game, and then that segued into who was asking for
Wonder Woman.
a Wonder Woman video game. Which look, all these points are valid. Who is asking for a Wonder Woman video game? I mean, I think before we get a Wonder Woman video game, we should at least get one good Superman video game.
Yeah.
Please, can we get one good Superman video game, please?
At the very least, I am asking for a Wolverine and Black Panther game before Wonder Woman, and those are coming out. Not to say I really have any interest in either of them, but
I don't know.
I don't necessarily want a Wolverine video game because we already had a good Wolverine video game. It came
Yeah.
out during the 7th gen where you played that game where Wolverine just fucked people up, and it was pretty good. It was like the Punisher game, just the Punisher fucking people up.
that Punisher. Oh, I should have not been playing that game, but it was a fun game.
Well, that's what the Punisher does in the comics. Like
Yeah.
It's hilarious to me that we had multiple Wolverine movies. I mean, multiple X-Men movies where Wolverine's using his claws and there's no blood or very little blood. I'm like, you do know in the comics he fucks people up with those claws.
Yeah, no, it took up to Logan for us to finally see a little bit of red.
Yeah, and even then, Logan wasn't that violent.
I mean,
No.
it's just
Oh.
everybody. You know, everybody's afraid to make a rated R movie because they don't make as much money.
It took Deadpool to show that you can make a rated R comic book movie, like a mainline comic book movie, and Deadpool
And on a
wasn't
budget
mainline
too,
movie.
because 90% of Deadpool's on that freeway.
Yeah.
Or a rated R movie that has that can be mainstream.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Joker went ahead and did that, which impressive. I thought the movie was fine. I wouldn't. It's not like in my Hall of Fame, but it was
Yeah.
still impressive.
I've heard it described as like it's a decent movie but a bad Joker movie.
I think
Exactly.
it's
Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
For me, it's a really not so subtle on the nose '70s movie throwback.
Yeah, that's what it is. And the guy said, yeah, I was heavily inspired by Scorsese making this film. So it's like
Right.
it's like Taxi Driver, except instead of Travis Bickle, it's the guy who becomes the Joker.
Yeah.
Except if you're a comic book fan, which is where I have a fucking problem with these adaptations. The point of of any movie based on a book is that people who read the book and people who didn't read the book and watched the movie should be able to talk about this shit. If you have never read a Joker comic and all you saw is that fucking movie and you go to someone who's a huge comic book fan and knows about the Joker and you talk to them, you're not going to have a good dialogue because that movie fucks up a lot of the lore.
For myself, while I did enjoy the movie, it just feels like another story Joker tells you. It almost feels pointless in that way because hell, this could just be another one of those little wiles he tells somebody in a therapy session, something he
Yeah.
made up on the spot.
I'll keep it 100. No, go ahead, Louis. Sorry to cut you off.
No, that's and it's getting a sequel, which I think is a huge mistake in my opinion. I don't really think that's a movie that really needs to be made into a series franchise or it needs a sequel.
I agree. Some like The Matrix should have just ended with the first movie.
Exactly.
We didn't need a sequel, and we damn sure didn't need that third movie, and we definitely as hell sure didn't need that fourth one.
Oh god.
This just gets worse after the first movie.
Yeah, with each like the first movie is great. I'm not saying it's perfect, it's great. The second movie, it's good. Unnecessary, but good. That third movie can go eat a bag of
So
dicks.
self-indulgent, that third one.
And that fourth movie, not only can that fourth movie eat a bag of dicks, it can take one of them, stick that apparatus into some hot chili oil and shove it up its.
Really, the only
Damn,
extra
it was that bad. Oh,
Yes,
shit.
it was that bad. The Matrix
The only-
4 was terrible.
the only additional Matrix media I recommend is the Animatrix.
Yeah, the Animatrix, or maybe the comics, like the Matrix comics are pretty good.
There was this video game I hear good things about, but I'd never played it.
It wasn't good either.
Okay.
The Matrix, the Animatrix and the comics are good because the Animatrix basically is like stuff that's contemporaneous with what's going on in the first movie and stuff that tells how things got to that point to where humans and machines were fighting each other.
In addition, you just kind of just also enjoy it as a big showcase of different creative minds and what they come up with.
The animation is great in the Animatrix. But here's the thing: if you like the Oracle in the first movie, the Animatrix makes you hate that bitch. You're like, this bitch is evil.
Oh yeah. Right, so we're going on with.
But that's my own personal opinion. Where was I? Oh yes. We're only on topic 2. I guess we can have a segue. So, you see any good movies lately?
Myself. Shoot, what did I see recently? No, I can't say I went and saw anything recently. Wait, no, I did, but it wasn't. I wouldn't call it a good movie. I went with the old kids because I'd go see some movies with my nephew to see League of Super Pets. I mean, it's Dwayne the Rock and Kevin Hart as cartoon dogs. You get what you pay for. But good ones, no, I can't say I saw a good one recently. How about yourself?
The new Predator was pretty good on Hulu.
Oh, Prey. Yes, there we go. Sorry, I completely forgotten about that one. Probably my favorite one since the first one.
Yeah, for me, I would say it's the third best Predator movie I've seen in years. I still think the first one's the best. I actually like the second Predator movie.
Okay.
And then it goes with Prey, but you can flip that and go the first Predator movie, Prey, and then the second movie, the second Predator movie. Every other Predator film has not been very good. You know. No, go ahead.
I hear you. No, I was gonna say, yeah, Predator always had this one thing where it kind of just tonally turns on a dime every single time because the Predators movie, that ensemble cast, that one felt more like an action thriller, more actiony thriller.
Mm-hmm.
That was typical of not of Michael Bay stuff, but like of old 2010s, really big spectacle blockbuster stuff.
What movie
and
was
then
this again?
Predators, the one where they get warped to the planet.
Oh, yeah, Predators is actually pretty good.
No, I enjoyed
Predators. The problem with Predators is they miscast Adrian Brody as the lead, and Adrian Brody, he's just not really.
He's not an action lead, man.
Yeah, he's not an action lead. He is literally the person where I'm like, you're gonna die first. It's gonna be Adrian Brody, and the fact that he makes it, I'm like, they're like, he's a badass. I'm like, really, Adrian Brody?
And then of course you had the one that came out maybe I think 4 years ago, just called the Predator.
The Predator. You mean the one where the Predators came to Earth to steal all our autism?
Yeah, it almost didn't really. This felt like a goof episode. I mean, all the Predators have had their own tone about them, but this one was the most alien to me.
I'm gonna keep it real. I think that movie is one of the most offensive Predator films I've ever seen. Even more so than Alien vs. Predator Requiem, which is terrible. But at least Aliens vs. Predator Requiem, it was rated R, but it was a shitty CGI R.
There's an honesty about it, since it's really just these two bros fascinated with 80s sci-fi that got their action figures together in the dumbest role-playing session they could make.
And it ends with the Predator fighting a Predalien
Mhm.
a female Predalien and just them beating the shit out of each other. I'm like, you know what? I'll deal with it. I'll take it. I think AVP, the first Alien versus Predator, is actually, if you get the R-rated cut, is actually pretty good.
Okay.
The theatrical cut is PG-13, and they change all the blood into green shit, and it's like,
Mm.
no, you fucked up. I think if they do a sequel to Prey, what I want them to do, what I would love for them to do,
Yeah.
please do this. Here's the sequel to Prey. Here's what you do. You take, you have it set in the future. You have a group of game hunters, like human
Mhm.
game hunters. They go to this fucking planet that has a colony on it. Now, the people who live on this planet know that this planet is a game warden for the predators. Predators
Mhm.
come down there and hunt deadly game. Not the people, but like creatures that they've stocked on their planet.
Mhm.
But they're a truce. They're like, look, we kill something, we take it, we eat it. We're cool. We're living with the land. We're not showing our ass. These people, these hunters come there, like these big game hunters come down there. They start just willy-nilly killing shit. And the predator's like, oh, so you think you're bad, huh? Okay, let's play. And murders the shit out of all of them. Kills the fuck. And like, I want to see that message. Like it turns into a slasher film with these people dying in increasingly horrific ways. The big game hunters with their big guns, like, we're badass. Oh, really? Okay. All right. We'll see how
Yeah.
badass you are.
There is a segment of that in Prey, just stretched out to a whole movie.
Yeah. Well, in Prey, it's the Predator in Prey is kind of a dick. Because in the beginning of the film, he's getting his ass kicked by a bear, and only when the bear is distracted does he get his kill shot in. Because he's a bitch. The Predator in Prey is kind of an asshole. I think
he's super angry, super petty. He doesn't play by the rules.
he's a teenager. Yeah, he's a teenager.
Yep.
I think they really should. Like, we keep on getting Predator films from the viewpoint of humans. I think we should get one from the viewpoints of the Predator. Or sorry, Yautja. I think that would be awesome. Stop, because fuck humanity. And I know I'm kind of a misanthrope about that, but fuck humanity. Like, humanity is noble. For real? You gonna go there? You gonna go there? I think that would be cool. I don't know if they would do that, but that's my own personal opinion.
Every once in a while, you need something to numb the cynicism when it comes to humanity.
Yeah.
I mean, I get where you're coming from, but
No.
all the time.
Every once in a while, I see something amazing that humanity does. Like, I read about some guy who, like the local school system started charging fees for free school lunch, so he goes out of his way to fix lunch for some kids. That's what he does. Like, I see something like that, I'm like, that gives me faith in humanity. Then I realize some fucking school system wanted to charge these poor kids money for school lunch, for food that the school's gonna buy any goddamn way.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's neither here nor there. Anyway, I'm a misanthrope. I want to see a Predator film where the Predator just murders the shit out of people, because I'm tired of seeing, humanity is better than an alien species that like typically lives 400 years, and if you're a successful Yautja, you've been hunting for like hundreds of years, and some fucker from here who at the most might be in their prime for like 30 years of their life is gonna outperform that. Get the fuck real.
It'll leave an impact too, because hey, look, it wasn't maybe 4 years ago where people were blown away by a big purple giant man whooping the Avengers, and then they completely undid it, and no one really talks about that. They talk about how we didn't win.
No, they undid it by basically going like breaking the timeline and doing some alternate reality shit. Like, it wasn't something that was easily done. Although, to be fair, there are issues with Endgame that I don't like. For example, I don't like that they jumped to Banner becoming Professor Hulk in the 5-year interim. It would have made more sense to Banner to go into crippling depression and become Grey Hulk. Like, just becoming a cynical bastard. But that's neither here nor there. That's too much, because Grey Hulk is a bastard. Like, he is a real son of a bitch. I hope they bring him out in She-Hulk. Because he's an asshole. He's an asshole to his cousin. He's like, oh no, oh I got it. Oh no, not Betty. I don't care about that bitch. He's like, I got shit to do. He's like, look at me. I'm ripped. I can get other women. Look.
Yep, and he's dressed in a nice pinstripe too.
Yeah, that's when he's wearing Joe Fix-It. Look, I got all types of women. I don't need Betty. Shit, look at this. Women can't say no to this. I'm the Hulk. All of me gets big. All of me. Wink. But anyway, let's move on to the next topic. What is the best handheld in your opinion, and why?
I'm gonna say the Switch, in my opinion.
Oh, so you're gonna go with the Switch? Yeah. Okay.
I am. Yeah.
All right. And why?
Well, it might not be completely fair because while the Switch's original catalog of games aren't as plentiful as, say, something like the DS or Game Boy Advance or the Game Boy Family, it's really its convenience of allowing me to try older games that I couldn't. Because back then, if you wanted to try, like, say, I don't know, the Game Boy Advance port of this game, you would have gotten yourself a completely different vision than something the main team had made for the GameCube release or something like that. In addition, it helped me really play a lot of last-gen titles I just didn't get a chance to play, like Vesperia, Resident Evil 0. Well, I wouldn't call that last-gen, but I didn't play that one for a while. What's another good one? Devil May Cry 4. I like it. It's not quite PC grade where you can find a whole library of stuff you'd missed, but I just really like plopping on my couch or on my table and just playing something I'd never played from previous gens. It's a nice little nook of a nice little nook of options right there. But yeah,
right.
that's mine.
That's a fair assessment. Kenoshi, favorite, and why?
I would say the Game Boy Advance. I just have a lot of fond memories pertaining to that.
Cool.
Handheld. It did have a lot of games. It was the handheld I interacted with, the most. Obviously, second to the Switch, but yeah, the Game Boy Advance was a handheld Super Nintendo. Yeah, its audio chip was worse, but it was nice to see some of those games, play some of those games on handheld.
One quick correction: its audio chip was not worse. It's just most developers didn't. It was kind of like with Sega Genesis, where if you had a developer who knew how to use that sound chip, it sounded great. But if you had someone who was just doing the bare minimum, it sounded like shit. And there's a lot of games on the Game Boy Advance that did not sound great. Even like, but then there were games that sound amazing. Like Golden Sun sounds great. Both of those games sound great on the Game Boy Advance. So does Breath of Fire. The Breath of Fire ports.
Just comparing. I'm just mainly comparing it to the Sony chip from the Super Nintendo.
Yeah, it's not, like I said, some of them aren't great, but some of them, like Link to the Past, sounds very close to what it sounded like on the SNES. The only downside for me for that port for the Game Boy Advance is that they added fucking Link's yell from Ocarina of Time.
Yeah, I don't know why they did that. That just seems unnecessary.
They did the same thing with the Mario games. Like in the 2D Mario game ports, like they added Mario's Yahoo as a sound in the game. I'm like, I don't want to hear that shit. I like the original sound.
Yeah, I mean, come to think about it, yeah, that's unnecessary. That was unnecessary too.
Don't be adding weird shit to my burger. I didn't order that. No, yeah. For me, I'm gonna cheat and I'm gonna say my favorite handheld is going to be the DS.
Good pick.
Why? Because the OG DS. Because the OG DS was backwards compatible with all the Game Boy library, and plus the DS library. Which the DS library, I still to this day, everyone loves the 3DS. and the Switch. But between the DS, if you factor in the huge library that you have with the Game Boy, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, and then the huge library you have with DS, that that covers everything you need. The only downside, the perfect DS would be a DS that had access to all those Game Boy games, like for the GBA, Game Boy Color, or OG Game Boy, and access to the digital virtual console, plus the DS games themselves. That'd be the perfect handheld. Because, like I said, the Game Boy had ambitious games that you just don't see anymore. Like, people would port a sports game on the Game Boy, and it would actually be good. People would port a 2D fighter, and some of them were actually functional. Like the Killer Instinct port on the Game Boy is actually fairly decent. And then you get to the further generations, like the Game Boy Advance with like the 16-bit games getting ported over to the Game Boy. Like I said, it's just one of those things where I'm like, okay, that is my favorite. Just the library you have available to you is worth it. Even now, you can get a Game Boy Advance. I mean, a DS. You can get a used DS, and if you have an EverDrive and a Game Boy EverDrive and a DS EverDrive, you can basically play everything you want.
Yeah.
And I love that shit. I love having all my shit on one device, and I don't have to fight in order to play other stuff. I love that. The only downside is that some DS games, Nintendo's like, you have to use the stylus, and I'm like, I don't want to use the stylus.
Oh yeah, some gimmicky puzzles like close your DS to screens can touch, and then you solve this really obtuse puzzle. Oh my goodness.
Well, not so much that, but like they do a port of like Diddy Kong Racing
Mm-hmm.
on the DS, and it used the stylus, and I'm like, why does a racing game use a fucking stylus? Or they did what was that other game, Star Fox Command on the DS, and it used the stylus for you to command your wingmen to like do certain stuff, and it was like, I just want to fly around and blow shit up. Don't do this. But yeah, that's my best handheld. And I know some people say, what about the PSP and the Vita? The PSP is great as a hack station where you can hack it to run a lot of other shit. But that kind of goes against the spirit of what the console is, what the handheld is. As far as the Vita goes, the Vita is a wonderful idea, but Sony never supported it, so I can't. If you don't give a fuck about your handheld, why the fuck should I?
Sure.
I'm sorry. It's like I don't. If you don't care about your commercial product, then why should I? Anyway, I guess we can. Anyone have anything else they want to add about this topic before we move on to the next one? Yes, no, maybe
no.
so.
No.
All right. Okay. Next topic. Who or what is the best non-Nintendo mascot or franchise character? So we're taking all of Nintendo's stuff and Nintendo affiliated stuff and throwing that out the door.
Huh.
Should I go first and then you guys, that'll get your
Yeah, if you don't
flowing?
mind.
Okay, I've got two. The first
All right.
one, Earthworm Jim.
Okay.
Earthworm Jim is a really interesting character, and I think that, like, franchise-wise, you could bring Earthworm Jim back and it would be amazing because Earthworm Jim is so interesting. The other character that I think is a great mascot or franchise character, and I'm surprised they only appeared in one game, is I forgot the guy's name. It's a Sega game. I almost said Starry, but it's Sega's star mascot. He's got these arms and shit. Ristar.
Okay.
Ristar. Yeah.
I just like saying that name.
Bonk. Yeah, Bonk, who looks like Krillin.
Yeah.
Right.
Bonk is kind of interesting. They should bring back Bonk. That'd be up to Konami since they bought Hudson's library. Bomberman, even though Bomberman's a little problematic these days due to you know,
Yeah, it's in the name.
it's in his name. Yes. How does Bomberman get from planet to planet? He flies his own ship because he's not allowed to go to the airport. Yeah, I know some people say Pac-Man, but here's the thing. Pac-Man is really uninteresting.
I guess Slime from Dragon Quest. That's one thing I'm thinking.
Yeah, those are
But
interesting mascot characters.
yeah, but like like it's really merch. But it's just really more of a common enemy. But it's such a simplistic and amazing design how it pulls you in.
Yeah,
Jack Frost, but I don't know. Jack Frost is really
from
as well known.
Atlas. Well, he
Yeah,
supposedly is the mascot for the Persona series, but you'd have to be really into the Persona series to know that he's the
right,
mascot for the
right.
series.
Um, Shoot.
Could we say that Cloud Strife is the franchise face of Final Fantasy?
Oh, but at this
Yeah.
point, yeah.
Yeah, at this point, yeah.
They
I
have
mean,
crammed that motherfucker down our throats for years now.
Let's see. Can I say Banjo Kazooie?
Mm, yeah, they're franchise characters.
Yeah. See, Sonic. Those first two Sonic games were pretty good. 3 was okay. I just think the levels were a little too long. And then 3 and Sonic 3, 3 Knuckles.
Oh, Rayman. How could I
Everybody-
forget him?
Forgot Rayman.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm gonna give it to Rayman, quite honestly. No, wait. Yep, Rayman. That's gonna be it for me.
Yeah, Rayman is just. It's like what is Rayman supposed to be? He's so interesting because it's like just such a
No,
alien character.
yeah, he's kind of like a much more popular, weird, kind of funny dude, like Abe from Abe's Odyssey.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, you know what? Rayman and Abe are characters who you don't know what they are, so you want to know more about that world. Even though you might not like the game. Like I try to get into Rayman games and I get through I play like the first 4 or 5 levels of the new Rayman games and I'm like, I just don't feel like playing more of this. And the Oddworld games, the world is more interesting than the actual game. Like Lorne
That's true.
Miller should just make a book about the Oddworld world because the history that's in that world is really good.
No, it's true. Because that's one criticism I have is that I think his game development prowess really peaked with the first 2 games and New and Tasty, but New and Tasty it didn't really didn't need to build up on much from those original 2,
No.
and then the rest of his games are really for the arts. Like he's a he's a sort of a more juvenile Yoko Taro where he loves telling his stories for the arts and the worlds and and that whole anti-capitalist message of his. But
Mhm.
when it comes to actual technical showcasing, I always thought they were kind of rough.
Yeah.
Or especially Munch's Odyssey. That game is not good.
It is not. Personally, and this is just my own personal opinion, I would like, and I don't think if Lorne Miller would ever do this, Lorne Lanning, I forget the guy's.
Lorne Landing.
Laura Lanning. I don't know if he'd ever do this. I would like to see him get a decent budget and do a Oddworld open world game.
Yeah.
Like a
I find it.
massive, so that you could really explore the world. Because the world, like I said, like Stranger's Wrath, the world of Stranger's Wrath is really interesting.
Oh, no, yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
it's just the gameplay kind of.
Yeah, the controls are rough. The controls are rough.
I mean, they came out with an HD version, and still the controls are still.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
controls hurt that game.
Those
Yeah,
controls.
and you can remap them as much as you want. It's like this game controls like shit. But I want it. Like the premise is good. The gameplay, the actual gameplay loop is good. It's just these controls, and the world
Yeah,
is interesting.
It's like a crazy Last of the Mohicans, but with a bunch of Muppets. It's
Basically,
good.
yeah.
Yeah.
And these small creatures that look like penises.
Yeah.
They should remake that game from the ground up
With a
with
better control
more
scheme.
modern, yeah, with more modern
Yeah,
controls.
because he remade the second game he made, and while I hear a lot of people praise, visually it looks fantastic.
The
Still has
controls.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the controls are
Yeah.
just awful, and then that's why I'm kind of thinking. I was like, yeah, it looks like you really peaked during the PS1, man.
Um, could be, could be.
Yeah, could be.
Even though the first two Oddworld games are just throwbacks to like Prince of Persia and Flashback and
Hmm.
those type of 2D, um, more methodical platformers, because that's all they are. Like you're solving puzzles in order to reach a
Right.
goal and get like rescuing people to take them to an exit. Anyway, um, but all those are really interesting characters. Of course, they don't have the prestige or the popularity of
Right.
Nintendo characters because Nintendo has leveraged the shit out of their IPs, their mascot franchise characters.
Mm-hmm.
And they're
Like,
really, yeah. I mean, Mario was pretty much a happy accident for him.
yeah, 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 you're right. I mean, but like I said, they've leveraged it. Like every single major Nintendo character, even people who've never played their games know the characters.
I'm kind of surprised we didn't say Mega Man, but I guess it just goes to show just how Mega Man stands with Capcom these days, where
Well,
the best they're getting is collections.
I mean, I could have said Mega Man, but I was like, I mean, is Mega Man even their mascot anymore? Isn't it more Ryu from Street Fighter?
I
and
at this
Leon
stage,
from Resident Evil?
yeah, and at this stage, I would say that giant lady from Resident Evil is her
Yeah,
mascot at this rate.
Lady
Yep.
D, who can get that Dino. Lady D,
I,
it's like she killed me,
lady,
but it's worth it.
to be juvenile, I called her Lady Dunk one time.
Yeah, she's got that badonkadonk and the
Yeah,
honk and the bazoons too.
good
She's got
God.
it all. It's like God damn. If you are a man like myself who like tall, curvy women, you saw Lady D and you were like, shit.
Yeah, she was like I hats off to Capcom. I haven't played Resident Evil in years, but that's a feat right there.
She got some big feet too. But anyway, yeah. So anyway, yeah. I think we've exhausted that topic. We can keep it moving.
Mhm.
We've got one topic left, and then we do our asshole of the week, and then we wrap it up. So, what bad game do you think could be good with a re-release and a ton of polishing? We kind of touched on this earlier with Stranger's Wrath.
Mm.
I would say Remember Me. That had some interesting ideas.
Oh, you mean that game that
Yeah.
Capcom released that they want people to forget they
Yeah,
ever
me and
made?
everybody. Yeah, they want people to forget, but yeah, that game was jank. That game was jank as hell. But it had some interesting ideas. It had the whole memory, the story idea from remixing. Like the main character's able to remix memories or manipulate memories. You were able to customize. You were able to customize your move set to a degree. Use the kind of a rough version of the Batman move set, but you could customize your move set.
And a
And
beat 'em up aspect to it too. Yeah.
yeah. The game was interesting. It's just a shame it came out the way it did. And
I remember it coming out, and I just remember it being like it landed with all of the weight of a feather.
Yeah.
It's
it
like,
kind of landed. It was.
ah.
It came out like a wet fart.
Yeah. It was it was like, no.
Yeah, I got that game on deep sale. So
Myself, the Legacy of Kain games in particular, because going back to them, they're not really smooth experiences in my opinion. Like the one that came out on PS1, it just plays like a really molasses-like classic Zelda.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm not saying the Zelda games were really fast, but
The first one, yeah. The first one plays out just like that. It plays out, you're like, this is shitty Legend of Zelda. Except
Yeah,
in a dark. Well, I mean, if you go to the dark world in Link to the Past, it's kind of dark. But in a dark, shitty world, it's shitty Legend of Zelda
right.
in a dark, shitty world.
Yeah, and the thing is, I think it has fantastic dialogue, characters, lore, world, the whole Megillah. But good God, even the one that came out afterwards, Soul Reaver. I
Yeah.
think Soul Reaver is a huge step up from Lexia Kane, definitely. But you know, going back to it, it just still doesn't hit quite as hard. Some mechanics just are just cumbersome, like needing to go ahead and execute kill every enemy with an execution, which is just so lame. Um, and then the last one that came out was very much a Devil May Cry, you know, just that character action game. I, I seriously do think those games have a lot to offer, but it just needs a stronger technical hand. So someone with a really good grasp on action gameplay uh, to pair with the really amazing world that was established from it.
Well, I have good news for you.
Oh yeah.
Since Square Enix sold IDOS,
Mm-hmm.
and all their IPs to
Oh
Embracer
yeah, that
Group,
is
they
right.
might bring that IP back.
Oh, I look forward to it, man, because
Yeah. The world is
but
really interesting, but the execution, I'm like, I don't. The thing is, I don't like Kane. He's supposed to be the hero of.
oh, Kane is like he's like an ugly Griffiths. Ugh.
Yeah, like they're like, well, he's the hero of the game. I'm like in the first game, you're playing as Kane, and then it moves on from there, and it's like this guy's kind of a terrible character. I don't like the character.
No, like dude literally ripped off the guy's wings. Like, well, if I can't fly, you sure are. I'm like, you son of a
Yeah,
bitch.
it was. Well, the whole thing is that it's part of the prophecy because the real Soul Reaver, Azrael, basically is supposed to be like he gets transformed into the true Soul Reaver. So
Mm,
it's like it's a convoluted ass story. I'm like, I know you guys did this for dramatic effect,
mm.
and there's actually a deeper storyline, or maybe they just want to do that just to make you hate that character. I don't know, but I was like, I can't.
There's the, yeah, and Soul Weaver for the PlayStation is one of the few games where the voice acting is still tolerable to this day.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, no,
oh
Uh,
yeah.
if,
yeah, the great
if
casting
you
is.
if you play any game, if you play any game from the '90s with voice acting, oh man, is it rough?
That's
Uh,
right.
I mean,
Um,
Myst has pretty good voice acting. Command and Conquer had cheesy voice acting, but they had good actors, so they sold it. Like Tim Curry. I'm going to the only place that you capitalists haven't ruined with capitalism. Space. It's like
I
Tim
did
Curry
enjoy the
sold it.
Twisted Metal games, but those have sparse voice acting, so.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but yeah, on Kane, I think the closest they've gotten to it is the Darksiders games, where it's not quite as eloquent as Kane.
Oh
I
no.
think the gameplay is stronger, but not significantly so for me to put Darksiders on any top 10 action games.
Yeah, but Darksiders actually has professional actors doing the voice. Like in Darksiders 2, the guy who does voice played the villain in The Crow. Plus, he was in
Oh
other stuff.
yeah,
He always played a bad guy though. So I'm like,
right.
then you got a bad guy to do the voice of the main character. I see what you guys did there. Um, you know.
But then, oh, sorry, good.
No, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, but then that franchise seems to be kind of on ice at the moment because the last release they had was maybe 4 years ago, I think.
Well, allegedly, apparently, now this is just what I heard. There's an alpha build of the next Darksiders game, and here's the rumor: the next Darksiders game is going to have 4 playable characters. You'll be able to play
Oh,
as Death War. It takes place after the events of Darksider 1. So, we've all played Darksiders 1 here, haven't we?
I have. Amazing ending scene.
Yeah, the ending where the seals are broken, and she's like, I killed the horse. Once all the seals are broken, the horsemen, no matter what condition they're in, are rejuvenated to start the end of times. But here's the problem: the end of times have happened, so now they have to rebuild everything because they've rescued the souls of humanity. So they've got to rebuild everything, but they've got heaven and hell, plus this outside chaotic faction coming after them. So everyone's against the 4 horsemen, the 4 Nephilim, the last of their species. Plus they got to kill their mother, Lilith. So But anyway, there's a lot of stuff going on. You get to play as 4 different characters. There's also going to be a co-op component because, 4 different playable characters.
Nice.
They all have their own distinct gameplay style, so that's supposed to be something interesting. Personally, I hope it turns. I really want, because I really love that franchise.
Yeah, no, it has strong artistic influences, and even though Darksiders 1 when it came out, it was kind of ripped apart because
It was a
I'm
God of
not
War
saying
clone.
and Portal and Zelda, I could just see all
Well,
of its different derivatives.
I mean, the portal thing. I mean, you didn't really. You used the portal in certain areas, so I'm not going to say it was a
Right.
portal clone. It was God of War crossed with Legend of Zelda, but
Yes.
that's not really a. I mean, is that really God of War itself is a shittier version of DMC?
No, in fact, I love this one Penny Arcade comic that they asked when they're reviewing Darksiders. They're like, "Well, what's the difference between Dean Derivative and a mod?" And he just says whether I like it or not.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Yep.
Yes. So for me, I prefer, like, if you put a gun in my hand and said, which would you rather play, God of War or Darksiders? I would rather play Darksiders.
Darksiders.
Because
All
God
right.
of War, I don't like the protagonists in Darksiders. Whereas, in God of War, whereas
Mhm.
the protagonists in, except for Fury is annoying. The protagonists in that game was just not very well made.
Oh, well, yeah, on launch,
Darksiders
Darksiders.
3.
Yeah, on launch it was very poor. I had a bunch of crashes, some really bad frame rates at times, and the enemies were just too aggressive for what the character you're controlling was.
Well, not even that. The thing that ruined that game for me was that they wanted to just make it into a Souls-like, and I'm
Mm.
like you're supposed to be this badass Nephilim. Why am I just getting bodied by all these enemies that I should be able to kick their ass?
That's something that Darksiders games seem to really do is take a lot of influences from what's hot at the moment. Like when Darksiders 2 came out, I think that was the last legs of when Prince of Persia was a big series.
Yeah, but I liked it though. But that's neither here nor there.
Mm.
So Kanoshi, do you have anything else you want to add before we move on to the final topic?
No.
All right. So our final topic is um, asshole of the week. um, we got some news that came out this week that
Oh, yeah?
the what confirmed what we always knew, which was that when Microsoft had Don Matrick come out there and say, "We have a device for people like that." If you're worried about always online, we have a device for people like that. It's called the Xbox 360. And Jeff Keighley was like, "So let me get this straight. you're telling people, you're telling your customers that potential customers, that if they don't want an always online system, they should just stick with the Xbox 360." And you could see the gears in Don Matrick's head spin and be like, "Fuck, I shouldn't have said that like that." And he tried to walk that shit back, but it was too late. It confirms what we always knew, which was that the Xbox One sold half of what the PS4 did. PS4 sold around 110, 115 million units. Xbox One sold about 58.3.
Ooh.
They got smoked.
And how?
Um, so the only thing I can say is the asshole of the week is people who are like, "Oh no, it doesn't matter." It's the people who said that numbers don't matter. Numbers fucking matter. And when a company stops reporting the sales numbers of their gaming devices, be worried.
No, I pretty much predict that from Sony because whenever Sony doesn't report the numbers for any of their games, I can just pretty much assume they didn't live up to expectations.
Yeah, it bombed. Um, anyway, that's my opinion. That's my asshole of the week is just it's not a particular person. It's the people who are saying, "Oh, numbers don't matter. You don't have to talk about that." It's like, yeah, numbers do matter. And when companies don't start telling people about how much money how many units something sold, and they stop reporting like stuff being sold, that's a problem. It's like if you had a kid in school and they didn't tell you their grades, don't you think that that's a sign that they fucked up and didn't get good grades?
Right. Myself, there's a story that came out maybe I think 2 days ago,
Mm-hmm.
where this company contracted by Nintendo for playtesters or
Mm.
debuggers, something like that.
Mm.
They're accused of some really bad, uncomfortable sexual workplace environment, something like that.
Yeah, I read about that, and I was going to mention that, but I hadn't read the complete article. I just saw the headline, so I didn't, you know.
So what one thing that, because it's also towards a group of people, since I don't have a named individual for that particular incident.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing is, oh man. So for one, people who really come to the defense of big corporations and just can't like, here's the thing, you criticizing poor workplace management or poor handling situation doesn't, I don't know where it jumps into your mind. So, well, I can't judge them since I play their games. Look, you can enjoy their entertainment and still be objective about shitty behavior
Yeah.
and shitty practices, because they're essentially, because there's a camp saying, no, you can't blame Nintendo for this. It's a company they contracted. No, Nintendo should have never contracted that company. They're at fault too. And to me, you guys are focusing on the wrong thing. You're trying to see who needs to be defended from certain accusations, and you just go ahead and focus on who it is that needs to be blamed first before who needs to be safe from those accusations.
Well, I mean, if people want to assign blame, I think both are at fault because
Oh,
Nintendo
sure.
hired them,
Yeah.
and the company did that. And also, whoever contracted them didn't do their due diligence. Because typically speaking, companies don't just we hired them and then they started doing this. This shit's probably been going on for years.
Hmm.
You don't just like Activision Blizzard. Just when these accusations at Activision Blizzard came out, it didn't just start. They've been doing this for years. It's just now it's coming out.
All right.
Um, and all those tech companies talk to each other. So you don't think someone didn't know something was going on? It's unrealistic. Um, but you're right. The people who do defend companies, I mean, and this could be for anything. This could be for
Mm.
policies, like corporate policies they do that affect consumers. This could be for malfeasance. This could be for perceived malfeasance. And you say, hey, yeah, I enjoy their products, but they did X, Y, and Z, and that's not cool. And then they're like, no, don't say that. You play their games.
Because
You should support them. It's like,
it really comes off as a super defensive and sensitive virtue signaling that they
yeah,
don't really need to do.
yeah. It's like, look, I order shit from Amazon. That is
Mhm.
true. I also think Amazon treats their employees like shit.
Yes, absolutely.
Look, they both are true, and I try to limit my amount of ordering from Amazon because of that. Because they do. Because I know this is a huge multi-billion-dollar company, and they could afford to treat their employees better.
Hmm.
They don't because they're dicks. I don't know why. I don't know why.
No, no, I absolutely understand. I guess my most of my frustration comes with that they're not thinking of the people first. They're thinking of sustaining the reputation of someone that gives
Oh
them
yeah,
content. Yeah,
yeah. As long as they're like junkies. As long as you don't mess up their fix, they don't
right.
care. As long as they get as long as they get to play their Nintendo games, as long as they get what they want, they're happy. But you could apply that. You could apply that template to like politics, religion. You know, you know, hey, I heard that preacher over there was going with the parishioner, their deacons' wives, got one of them pregnant. Yeah, that's terrible. But then when your preacher starts doing it, it's not an issue. You know, it's something. It's different. It's just one of those things where people need to think critically and have you need to people need to be consistent in the tools they use in order to judge things instead of basically uh, uh, picking and choosing when it's convenient for them to use it. Like it would be disingenuous for me as a it would be disingenuous for me as a person to say Activision Blizzard having a hostile work environment for people and minorities is wrong, and to rail on them, and then hear about a company that I like Nintendo, hiring a contractor doing this similar thing, and I'm like, oh, I'll let that slide because I like Nintendo. It's like, no. What's wrong is wrong, and it's wrong. It's wrong forever. It's not wrong just because someone you like or didn't like did it or didn't do it. But that's my opinion. Kenoshi, do you have a asshole of the week contender?
Not this week.
All right, we're done. It's in the cast.
Awesome.
We got like 5 minutes left before we wrap things up. Anyone have a quick topic? Anything that they thought that we should have talked about but didn't? Like, hey, we didn't talk about this big news story that no one mentioned.
No, not that I can think of. Gamescom's coming up. That's about it. THQ had a bunch of games they announced. They're making a South Park game.
Yeah,
that's curious.
And they didn't show anything. They were just like, "Yeah, we're gonna have a." I'm like, okay, I guess that's cool. South Park game. Hopefully, it'll be better than the Fractured Butthole.
God, I'm so mature. Just anytime someone says it.
You know what the irony of that game is? Is that the Fractured Butthole is like, that game is like 8 times bigger than the Stick of Truth, but the Stick of Truth is the better made game.
Yeah, didn't what are they called?
Obsidian.
The guys Obsidian there, yeah. I think Ubisoft just published it or something. There we go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Obsidian made that game, and it's so much better than the one made by Ubisoft themselves. They're like, well, we know how to make these now. We don't need you anymore. It's like, yeah, but your game kind of...
No, like... I do love that one bit in the Stick of Truth where if you try to sequence break, Cartman just comes in and pretending to be the coach of the Patriots saying, oh, so you like breaking rules, huh?
Yeah.
That's so good.
I think that the jokes in the Fractured Butthole are, like, some of the jokes are good, and some of the bosses, like Spontaneous Butte, is just hilarious. But like, I think, like, the problem with that game is that it tries too hard to be like the cartoon.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the Stick of Truth is like, yes, we're like the cartoon, but we can also do our own thing. Which is where I'm like, okay, this is good. But I mean, they're both good games. I just think that the first one's a little bit is quite a bit better. But that's neither here nor there. That's the end of the cast. So next week, I got a special surprise for you guys. I will be able to do a cast on Wednesday and Saturday. That's gonna be fun. Yeah. Cause let's see, conference starts on Monday, Tuesday. I'm skipping out early Wednesday. And then we wrap it up Thursday, and then I'm coming back Sunday. So that's gonna be fun. So anyway, so yes, there will be 2 casts next week. Kenoshi, if you have a Tuesday cast, I'll be able to make it. So yeah, glad to have another. We will have a cast Wednesday and Saturday. Now next week. Now, will that be going on forward? I don't know what my schedule is going to look like after next week, because things are fluid right now. Things are moving around, but we'll see what happens. Anyway, that's the end of the cast. Rate, comment, share, subscribe, and live your life. You guys have anything you want to pimp out before we wrap things up?
Nope, just same as you said. Live your life, people.
All right, Kenoshi.
Yeah, having a project console. I think we'll be talking about Gamescom. I think that starts this week. I'm not sure.
25th. So sometime next week. Yep.
I guess we'll give our speculations about Gamescom and what we want to see.
Yeah.
But they're not showing. Bethesda's not showing their shit. So for you Bethesda fans, you Starfield fans, you ain't seeing shit. I got nothing for you. Okay, that's in the cast. Right. Peace.